The CEO's compass. The city lights blurred into streaks of neon against the rain-streaked window of the taxi, each fleeting glow mirroring the chaotic rhythm of Elara Vance's 17 years. A year ago, she had been 16, a girl adrift in the vast ocean of adolescent uncertainty, navigating the treacherous currents of self-discovery without a clear chart. That night, she'd felt particularly lost. A fresh argument with her rigid, well-meaning parents echoing in her ears like a persistent siren song of disapproval. She had craved escape, a momentary reprieve from the suffocating expectations that pressed down on her like an invisible weight. The taxi, a canary yellow anachronism against the sleek modern skyline, had pulled up to the curb, its for hire sign a beacon of fleeting freedom. Arthur, the driver, a man whose smile didn't quite reach his eyes, had been solicitous, his voice a low rumble that seemed to promise understanding without judgment. He was older, perhaps in his late 30s, and his worldly weariness had, paradoxically, seemed comforting to a girl who felt unmoored. She remembered the warmth of the heater, the rhythmic swish of the wipers, and the way the city lights danced in his rearview mirror, as if inviting her into a secret adult world. That night, Elara, desperate for a connection, had lowered her guard, sharing fragmented dreams and fears with a stranger who seemed to listen without interruption. In the quiet intimacy of the vehicle, a line had blurred, a boundary crossed, and a mistake, born of naivete and a longing to feel seen, had been made. It was a single misjudged turn in the labyrinth of her youth, a decision that would send ripples through the entirety of her existence. She had simply wanted to feel something, anything, other than the ache of loneliness and the crushing weight of being an overlooked girl. She hadn't realized she was taking a ride that would redefine her destination entirely. The world, as Elara knew it, imploded 6 weeks later. The confirmation, a stark positive line on a cheap test, felt less like a beginning and more like an abrupt, brutal end. 16 and pregnant. The words echoed in her mind, a death knell to every future she had meticulously, if vaguely, planned. Her parents, pillars of their conservative community, reacted with a mixture of profound disappointment and barely concealed shame. Their initial shock slowly morphed into a strained, conditional support, the unspoken proviso being that she handled this situation with minimal fuss. This situation hung in the air, a phantom limb of judgment. Arthur, when she managed to track him down, had offered a flimsy veil of regret before disappearing like smoke in a strong wind, leaving Elara to navigate the storm alone. His departure was a chilling realization that she truly was on her own, a solitary ship tossed in a turbulent sea. She faced the whispers, the sidelong glances, the outright pity and condemnation from peers and adults alike. Her belly grew, a visible testament to her mistake, a permanent scarlet letter etched onto her young life. School became a gauntlet of whispered judgments and averted gazes. But beneath the crushing weight of despair, a new, fierce ember began to glow within Elara. It was the first flicker of maternal instinct, a protective fire ignited by the fragile life growing within her. This wasn't just her mistake anymore. It was her child, an innocent being utterly dependent on her. The world might have seen her as a lost cause, but she refused to let her child inherit that label. Aurora was born on a crisp autumn morning, a tiny bundle with a surprisingly strong cry, her fingers grasping Elaris with a grip that felt like an anchor. Holding Aurora for the first time was like discovering a hidden compass point in the dense fog of her fear. This wasn't the end, it was a new beginning, a destination she hadn't anticipated but now fiercely desired to reach. The early years were a brutal symphony of sleepless nights, minimum wage jobs, and the constant hum of financial anxiety. Elara worked tirelessly at a local diner, juggling shifts, diaper changes, and stolen moments with textbooks. She completed her GED online, often studying by the faint glow of a nightlight while Aurora slept soundly beside her. The condescending remarks from colleagues, the judging looks from strangers in the grocery store, they were fuel for her ambition. She was a single mother, yes, but she would not be defined by that label alone. She would drive her own destiny, even if it meant navigating the steepest, most treacherous roads. Every rejection, every setback was merely another course correction on her determined path. She saw opportunities where others saw dead ends, teaching herself rudimentary coding in stolen moments, devouring business books from the library. She began to view her life not as a prison, but as a complex engine, and she, with Aurora as her co-pilot, was determined to learn how to drive it. The true turning point arrived one rain-soaked evening, much like the night her life had irrevocably changed, but this time, Elara was in control. Aurora, now 5, was tracing shapes on the condensation of the apartment window, her bright laughter a melody against the relentless drumming of rain. Elara watched her, a sudden fierce clarity washing over her. She realized she wasn't just working to survive, she was working to thrive. Aurora deserved more than just survival. She deserved a life of possibility, a horizon unmarred by her mother's past. The catalyst wasn't a grand event, but a quiet, internal revolution. Elara had been dabbling in online courses, picking up skills in digital marketing and web design. She'd always possessed an intuitive understanding of how things worked, a knack for seeing connections others missed. One evening, while troubleshooting a friend's failing e-commerce site, an idea sparked. It wasn't just about fixing what was broken. It was about building something entirely new, something sustainable and impactful. She saw a gap in the market for intuitive, eco-friendly digital solutions for small businesses, helping them not just survive, but flourish in a crowded online world. "Mommy, what are you drawing?" Aurora asked, pulling her from her reverie. Elara smiled, pulling Aurora onto her lap. "I'm not drawing, sweet pea. I'm building a map to our future." The next few years were a blur of relentless effort. Elara started a small consulting firm out of her tiny apartment, taking on any freelance digital project she could get her hands on. She poured every spare moment and every penny into her fledgling venture. Days were spent coding, designing, and networking. Nights were dedicated to research, strategic planning, and always Aurora. She learned to speak the language of business, to negotiate with the sharpest minds, and to articulate her vision with unwavering conviction. She was no longer just a pregnant teenager. She was an entrepreneur, a visionary, a woman driving her own narrative. She faced countless rejections, doors slammed shut, and skeptical glances that seemed to ask, "What could you possibly know?" But each no was a spark, igniting her resolve, pushing her to refine her pitch, to strengthen her product, to sharpen her resolve. She understood that every setback was merely a recalibration of her compass, a chance to adjust her trajectory. She often felt like a tiny boat on a vast ocean, buffeted by winds, but she kept her sails taut, always pointed towards her chosen destination. She was learning not just to drive, but to navigate the most complex routes, charting a course that defied the maps others had laid out for her. The girl who had once felt she had taken a wrong turn was now expertly steering her own vessel. The air in the boardroom was thick with anticipation, heavy with the scent of expensive coffee and unspoken billions. Elara, now in her late 20s, sat at the head of the polished mahogany table, her gaze as sharp and unwavering as the diamond stud in her ear. Her company, Veridian Innovations, had grown from a seed of an idea into a burgeoning force in sustainable tech solutions. But this deal, the acquisition of a rival multinational corporation, was the Everest of her career. It would not only solidify Veridian's position as a Fortune 500 company, but also revolutionize the industry itself. Across the table, the stoic faces of the conglomerate's board members reflected decades of corporate power. Their lead negotiator, a grizzled veteran known for crushing startups, wore a smirk that Elara recognized as a thinly veiled challenge. He had underestimated her from the start, seeing only the youthful CEO, not the fire forged in the crucible of single motherhood and relentless ambition. "Miss Vance," the veteran began, his voice dripping with condescension, "your offer is ambitious to say the least. We find it hard to believe a company of your relatively recent vintage can truly manage an integration of this magnitude." He paused, letting his words hang in the air like a taunt. "Are you sure you're ready to take the wheel of such a massive operation?" Elara leaned forward, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips. "Mr. Davies," she countered, her voice calm but resonant, "I've been driving against the current my entire life. Size has never intimidated me. It merely represents a larger opportunity to make an impact." She presented her case with surgical precision, detailing not just the financial benefits, but the synergistic potential, the market dominance, and the ethical implications of their combined sustainable initiatives. She spoke of her vision, not just for profit, but for progress, for a greener future. She painted a picture so compelling, so meticulously researched, that even the most cynical eyes began to flicker with interest. Then came the moment of truth. Mr. Davies, clearly flustered by her composure, tried a different tack, a subtle attempt to dig into her past, to find a weakness. "You've had a rather unconventional journey to this table, haven't you, Miss Vance? Many would say you've taken some unexpected detours." The implication was clear. Her past as a teenage mother, an outsider, a girl who lost her way, was meant to disqualify her. Elara met his gaze, her eyes blazing with an unshakable confidence. "Indeed, Mr. Davies," she acknowledged, a double entendre shimmering beneath her composed surface. "Every detour has taught me invaluable lessons about adaptability, resilience, and the sheer grit it takes to reach a destination others deem impossible. I've learned to navigate unforeseen obstacles and to rebuild my map when the old one failed me. And I assure you, I've never driven a vehicle I couldn't handle, no matter its size or complexity." She paused, letting her words sink in. "My unconventional journey has simply equipped me with a unique compass, one that points not just to profit, but to true innovation and lasting value." The room fell silent. Her words, a steel gauntlet thrown, had silenced the veteran. The other board members exchanged glances, a new respect dawning in their eyes. After a tense silence, the chairman cleared his throat. "Miss Vance," he said, a genuine smile finally breaking through his stoicism, "you've certainly made a compelling case, and an even more compelling impression. We accept your offer." The ink on the merger documents was barely dry when the news broke. Veridian Innovations acquires global leader, propelling CEO Elara Vance to Fortune 500 elite. It was more than a business deal. It was a coronation. Elara, the girl who had taken a fateful taxi ride at 16, had not only driven her own destiny, but had charted a course to the pinnacle of corporate power. She had taken the reins of her life and steered it beyond anyone's wildest expectations, becoming the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, a testament to raw will and unyielding vision. Life as a Fortune 500 CEO was a whirlwind of international travel, high-stakes negotiations, and an endless stream of decisions that affected thousands. Elara, now in her late 30s, handled it all with a grace and efficiency that belied the immense pressure. She was a master architect, building an empire that was not just profitable, but also genuinely innovative and environmentally conscious. Her vision for Veridian, forged in the quiet desperation of her youth, resonated across global markets. Aurora, now a bright, articulate teenager, was her anchor, her constant reminder of why she fought so hard. Their relationship was a testament to Elara's unwavering dedication. Despite her demanding schedule, Elara carved out sacred time for her daughter, late-night talks, weekend adventures, and unwavering presence at every school event. Aurora, aware of her mother's extraordinary journey, looked at Elara not with pity for her past, but with awe for her resilience. "Mom, you literally built your own world," Aurora once marveled, seeing the vast corporate landscape her mother commanded. Yet, even at the zenith of her professional success, Elara felt a persistent, quiet tug in her soul. She had climbed her mountain, but the view from the top revealed valleys where others still struggled, where young girls faced the same precipices she had once teetered on. Her success, she realized, was a beacon, but a beacon only illuminates if its light reaches those in darkness. This realization blossomed into a new, profound purpose, the Ascendant Daughters, her nonprofit organization. It was born from her own crucible, a sanctuary for young women facing unexpected pregnancies, societal judgment, or simply a lack of guidance. The name itself was a double entendre, signifying both the daughters who would rise above their circumstances and the legacy she sought to build. It aimed to provide comprehensive support, education, vocational training, childcare resources, legal aid, and most importantly, mentorship. Elara wanted to give these girls the compass she hadn't had, the tools to chart their own course, regardless of the storms they faced. Launching the Ascendant Daughters was as challenging in its own way as building Veridian Innovations. It required different skills, a different kind of negotiation, a different measure of impact. She leveraged her network, her resources, and her personal story, pouring her heart and considerable energy into its development. The stories of the girls the Ascendant Daughters helped became the most fulfilling metrics of her success. She saw reflections of her younger self in their eyes, fear, vulnerability, but also a nascent fire, a longing to prove their worth. She stood as a living metaphor for their potential, proof that a single wrong turn didn't have to define the entire journey. She wasn't just donating, she was investing in futures, nurturing seeds of potential that might otherwise wither. Years later, Elara Vance, a woman whose name had become synonymous with innovation and philanthropy, stood on a brightly lit stage, accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award. Her silver hair framed a face etched with wisdom and quiet strength. Aurora, now a successful architect and a dedicated board member of the Ascendant Daughters, watched from the front row, her eyes brimming with pride. In her acceptance speech, Elara spoke not of her triumphs, but of the invaluable lessons learned in the shadows. "Life, like any journey, is filled with unexpected routes," she began, her voice resonating with years of experience. "Sometimes you find yourself on a path you never intended to take. But it is in those moments when the map seems to fail that you truly learn to trust your own inner compass. It's not about avoiding the detours, it's about learning how to navigate them, how to find new destinations you never dreamed possible." The Ascendant Daughters had become a national movement, a lighthouse guiding thousands of young women away from despair and towards empowered futures. Its impact was immeasurable, a testament to Elara's belief that every life, no matter its challenging start, deserved the chance to bloom. She had built a legacy not just of wealth, but of profound human connection and upliftment. As she stepped down from the stage, a sense of profound peace enveloped her. She had taken a wrong turn, yes, but in doing so, she had discovered a destination far richer and more meaningful than any she could have initially conceived. The 16-year-old girl, lost and alone in the back of a taxi, had found her way to the driver's seat of her own life, steering a course that benefited not just herself and her daughter, but countless others. She had proven that the true measure of a life isn't in avoiding the potholes, but in how beautifully one drives through the storm, leaving a trail of light for others to follow. She wasn't just a CEO, she was a compass, pointing towards a brighter, more compassionate future.